churches and all that, they'll fail you, man. Like, but Jesus won't. Doing things for God is taxing. Doing things with God is freeing. It becomes more about the person at the top and not Jesus as the cornerstone of the church. God, if this is your church, I want nothing to do with this. God in his grace allowed me to go through that, man, because he helped me see that, like, I put people on a pedestal that only Jesus can occupy. Who I am was so wrapped up in what I do.
I've always been fascinated by people who follow Jesus in ministry, especially for long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
And you have been in ministries from, I don't know, I grew up with you in church. You were basically born in church all the way till now being the drummer for Red Rocks. And in that, you see the highs and the lows, the messes and like the mountaintops of everything in between. And yet you always someone is always like faithfully following Jesus through it all. And that's a question of just like, why does that always happen? Yeah. And so when you look back on your journey, what has kept you faithfully following Jesus through it all?
Man, hasn't been easy, that's for sure. But I think the thing that keeps me following Jesus is just like, I believe the Bible. I believe like who Jesus is a lot more than I believe in a platform like Red Rocks Worship, Red Rocks Church, Flatirons, Brave, whatever you might be seeing out there as a church platform. I think the modern day church has kind of done a disservice where it platforms pastors and people and not Jesus as the cornerstone of the church. So I believe that when Jesus came down here to earth, he was God's plan A for humanity. And so that's what keeps me believing in Jesus. It's just no, he came and he did exist. It is real. In fact, you don't need the Bible to prove the existence of Jesus. Yeah. You can use science, you can use all sorts archaeological artifacts, all the things point to the fact that Jesus walked on earth. So that's what keeps me believing is just no, that's real. Yeah. Platforms and churches and all that, they'll fail you, man. But Jesus won't. And I know we're going to get into church hurt and stuff, but man, the church crucified Jesus. So we're really shocked when we get hurt in church. It's well, actually Jesus said you'd be hated for my name. So it's all in the Bible, right? So that's why I believe it. It's because the things I've seen, we're all said by the Lord in scripture. Yeah. I'm this is just here. Yeah. Okay. This is playing itself out. So it's honestly, that's what's kept me believing. So,
okay. Yeah. So in order to land at somewhere to where you believe, there's usually a backstory. So we're going to rewind a little bit.
Yeah,
we're going to go back in Matt time here.
Oh, let's
all right.
go.
So before Red Rocks, before ministry, who were you? What was life growing up?
Dang.
Go a little bit to your origin story here.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm adopted from birth. Yeah. Adopted gang. So, which is a two-sided sword because you're always going to struggle with identity issues, but then you're going to touch the heart of God in a way that other people can't, knowing what it actually means to belong to something or being plucked out of something. So was adopted from birth. Birth parents couldn't, my parents couldn't have kids. And my parents were actively involved in a local church back in Virginia Beach. And so, I mean, that's where a lot of our paths cross in that whole world of Sovereign Grace churches. And I think it was called People of Destiny.
Oh, I didn't.
Ministries.
I didn't
PDI.
know that. Oh, PDI, yes,
Bro,
yes.
Cringy names. Guys, church names haven't gotten any better. It's just gotten worse. Now we just do rock formations out here in Colorado.
Yeah,
but
true.
People of Destiny sounds like a cult.
It really does. People of Destiny.
It's so bad. It's what were they thinking?
It was with some movement.
Now, it was super charismatic. I will say, a lot of my love for worship music comes from just being in church. And we were charismatic, tambourine, out in the audience. You remember all that. It was crazy. Yeah. It was awesome. Flag waving all over the place. It was wild. So anyways, was born into a family. My mom is from Baltimore and she's one of 7. My dad is from Barbados and he's one of 3. And so my dad was in Maryland for a swimming scholarship because he was actually an Olympic swimmer, and that's where my parents met at college, Towson State University. Again, I'm super involved in big church circles, and then moved out to Virginia Beach. That's where I came into the picture, was adopted, and I've been attending local church probably since the week I came home from the hospital. So I don't think I've missed many weekends in a church. I literally grew up there, but a lot of my musical influences came from my dad, who listened to a lot of Stevie Wonder and jazz and funk and things like that. They would take me to these jazz festivals.
So when did you start drumming?
4.
For
Yeah, it
Do you
was like
remember?
officially, like very vaguely. I got my first like toy drum kit
Mhm.
at 4. I guess I really started at 3. I was banging on pots and pans, annoying the crap out of my
Oh,
mom,
very
like
nice.
just pulling apart her kitchen and making my own kits and things. Like I have
Yeah.
pictures from back then. So like, yeah, but going to local church every week, man, and seeing there's a guy that played drums, you know him well just because of the family history of, well, Augie Hughes was the guy playing drums. And so I'd just watch every week and it'd be like, I would mimic what they would do. And like either at the jazz festival or at church, like I'd end up becoming kind of the show in the middle of the crowd because I'd always be like eyes glued to the drummer, eyes glued to the stage, like kind of mimicking what they were doing.
Yeah.
So my parents noticed that, like, hey, like he's got some sort of like musical gifts and like
Yeah.
maybe we should pour into this a little bit more. So like, yeah, 4 years old, got my first drum kit, and then we moved out to Colorado on a church plant to play in a church called Grace
Oh,
Community
yeah.
Church. I guess it wasn't called Grace at that time; it was called something different, or was it?
It was called
I
something
can't
else.
remember. Uh,
Providence Community Church, I think?
Providence Community Church. Yeah.
Yes.
So the first place we met was that little clubhouse off 112th and Federal. Like if you go to the bottom of the hill, there's like a neighborhood over there, Stanley Lake,
Oh, okay.
something
Yeah.
or another, and there's a little clubhouse over there. That's where we met. And then we moved over to Brimfield High School, which I now live by and drive by every day, which is wild.
Yeah.
But it was like a load in, load out church situation. And we're part of the church planted team. That's where we met. That's like where your family, like, you know, was a very integral part of that. Like, which is wild. Like, even now, like fast forwarding to like Red Rocks days, there's some guys on our that serve on our team that were a part of that church back in the day. And it's just so funny to like recant stories of like, man, look at us. We're still serving in church, still doing the thing. So, but yeah, so started like my dad was the worship pastor at that time. And so he would show up 6 a.m., 5 a.m. to load in the Broomfield High School. I would show up with him.
Yeah.
So I've spent a lot of my years being like the first to church and the last to leave.
Yeah.
So quite literally done that most of my life. But yeah, I guess we can continue on. So when I was like 9 or 10, my dad was in the workplace professionally, but was doing kind of like ministry like on the side with Providence, and then just felt the call to go to the pastor's college, which was seminary basically back east. So we moved back east for a year when I was 9, lived outside of DC, Gaithersburg, Maryland, which was sick because going all to the like museums and stuff like that,
Yeah,
and
great place.
being in the capital. And then we God sent us to Phoenix from there. So where I was in Phoenix for the better part of my like teenage years, and then moved back up to Denver when I was 17 and a half. So like the move to Phoenix, dude, I remember like day 1 in Phoenix was 122 degrees. I was like, Dad, where did we move to? It's so
Like, why are
hot.
we here?
Like it's freaking Mars. Like I've never experienced a place like that where like Denver is pretty mild temperature. Like
Yeah.
it gets hot here in the summer. We're mile high, so the sun's like intense, but like it's not 110. Like
I think
I
about
cooked an egg on the
all the time.
sidewalk. Like legitimately. Like laid the foil down, cracked an egg, and it sizzled. Like so that just shouldn't be a thing. Like
I don't know why people live there. I really don't.
because in the winter, when it's 40 degrees or 30 degrees here, it's 75 and sunny.
That is true.
So
That is true.
that's why people live there. But
Yeah.
anyways, super involved in a church down there called Sovereign Grace Church. It's still there. Was very involved in the youth group. I started playing drums in the youth group when I was like 11. This was like formal entrance into like serving on a worship team.
Yeah.
There was a guy that was playing that graduated basically when I turned 12. So he aged out of like the youth group, and I would literally like sit with him like in practice and just watch and learn and help him set up drums because we had like a totally different, we took everything off the stage and we're like on the floor for that setup. But yeah, it was wild just being there again, like helping out with like tech stuff, just kind of riding shotgun
Yeah.
to how worship works. And then eventually got put into like position A to like play drums when that guy graduated. So I started playing. There was a worship leader. His name's John Payne. He's a senior pastor now in Austin, Texas, but like took me under his wing, like very much like discipled me, like walked me through a lot of different things. And like I owe a lot to that guy. So like, and that's the cool thing. It's like, that's why I'm so passionate about connecting with people in the worship space, is because like I want to be that person for
Yeah.
as many people as possible. Because this
Yeah.
isn't my gift to like keep, it's my gift to share. It's why the Lord gives us these things, is not to keep for ourselves. It's to tell the world. And so, yeah, John mentored me, was super involved in church. And then like fast forward, like, you know, I'm I've been actively serving in this youth group in this church for like 6 years. Like we lived across the street from the church. So I would literally just walk over there all the time. It's where I spent most of my time, is hanging out over there. And I was involved in like some sports ministry stuff with like a basketball team. So it had a really tight community. So we were thinking about, my parents like, felt like, hey, maybe God's calling us back to Colorado, but to plant a church in Colorado Springs. And so that was like
I
the
didn't know
whole
that.
shtick was like, you didn't?
No, I
Oh,
didn't know that
oh.
part.
So the whole shtick was like, we were going to go plant a church in Colorado Springs out of the church in Phoenix. And we were running that whole plan down. And then just a right turn, like out of nowhere, came where the senior pastor at Grace was stepping down, and they asked my dad to take over as senior pastor. So it's like, it's kind of a first full circle moment where we helped plant this church. Now we're coming back to help pastor it. However, for me, I didn't see it that way, because like I had like some of my best friends in Phoenix, like actually their families were like moving with us to Colorado Springs. It was going to be like a whole thing. So I'm like, leaving a place for the sake of Jesus as a young person really sucks, because like those formative years of like, 11 to 18, 17, it's like those are really important.
You were 16 at this move.
At 17 and 17, a half. Okay. So I was in the tail end of my junior year of high school. So think about like where you were junior year of high school, you're pretty entrenched to like what's going on in your community and your life and your friends and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to leave already, at least in scenario A, this church plant. Like some of my friends are coming with me, not all of them, but some of them. But then the rug got pulled out from under that, and we were just moving back to Denver. And so it went from like, I was already kind of mad about the move to now I'm pissed. Like I did not want to come back up here, because I was like, cool, I'm leaving everything. And we had taken a trip up here to like kind of get the lay of the land. And I was like, okay, this youth group is not the same as that one. This is not as vibrant. Like, okay, they have the drums in a cage, like here at this church. Also, there's like 4 drummers. Like they don't need me. Like this is going to pan out really bad.
There's just a lot.
There's just a lot. And like, God knows what he's doing, man, when he pulls moves like that. He's playing chess while we're playing checkers, right? So like, ultimately we moved back up to Denver. That's where we got reconnected, which was kind of wild. And we both kind of grew up through the ranks of Grace. Like I was probably setting up something on stage and you were mowing the lawn outside.
Yes, very often.
Like very often.
Yes.
So I was at church all the time just because my dad was the senior pastor. So I was hanging out there a lot. Like, you guys lived right by there. Like me and David rode around Austin, just acting a fool, doing something stupid.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Bunch of church kids, bunch of knuckleheads. So, and the youth group like did get like better, like those years with like Tim Gilmore and like all those retreats and like lock-ins and stuff. Man, remember that time we drank like 9 rock stars over that lock-in? We like had 9 energy drinks in one night.
I didn't keep count, but
bro,
just that
never again. Like never again. Youth group lock-ins are like the best bad idea ever.
I understand it now. Like as a kid, as a teenager, I was like, this is the best thing ever. But now being on this
as
side
a parent, you're like,
I'm like,
that's not good. Like our whole pattern is interrupted all week.
Yeah, so, like or if you're like a volunteer. Oh man, so. But I loved it. There
was some really cool years. Some challenging years like came on the end of that. Like this is where, you get into a lot of my, I guess, church hurt, so to speak. So the group of churches that we grew up in very much changed in the way that it was structured. I would say we were like non-denominational, and then it like leaned pretty hard like Baptist, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think what happened is processes and church polity were put over people.
Yeah.
And that's like what it boils down to. And I think I see this a lot in church. Like it becomes more about the platform and less about people. And when you lose sight of like people, which is all the Lord cares about and what Jesus came for, I think that's where we just start to get squirrely. So that happened. Basically, the situation was like my dad was counseling a couple that was like really struggling in their marriage, and he gave them some like pretty hardcore advice of like, my dad's always a very direct communicator, will always tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, which sucks sometimes as a son. Because when I'm like, no, I really didn't want to hear that. Like, I wanted you to tell me I'm right. But he's like just never that guy. So he gave some direct like counsel to this couple. They ended up like not sticking together. Their marriage kind of blew up, but they blamed it on him. And then like what ended up happening, at least my side of the story, there's two sides to every story.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening is there was a pastor that had just come on staff that was actually a senior pastor at a different church in that network, but they moved to Denver. And they pretty much like organized a hostile takeover through all of this. They used this situation with this couple as kind of a scapegoat to put my dad on trial. Is like, is he fit to lead this church? Is he like, is he giving bad spiritual advice? But it was really just a power play to like for that person to take over, which again, like this is a really unhealthy thing I see in churches. It becomes more about the person at the top and not Jesus as the cornerstone of the church. Like, I don't know where we got off, man. We're like, Jim Bergen, Sean Johnson, like Stephen Furtick, any of them, like, are the cornerstone of the church. Now, they would sit here and tell you they're not. And I do believe that. Like, it's one of the reasons why I love and respect Sean so much. Like, there's so much diversity in the leadership at Red Rocks to, like, actually live out the fact that, like, no, Jesus is the head of this thing. Like, we're just servants. That's it. So, like, but not every church operates like that. And so I think we've just strayed so far, but that's what ended up happening at the same time. So my dad goes literally on trial for his life. It's what it felt like. At the same time, my sister, who's got like some severe developmental disabilities, started acting out and like running away from home and getting into all sorts of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And like the church, which should have been like wrapping their arms around my family, did the exact opposite. And so I'm like seeing this all go down. It feels like the whole world is chaos.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, if this is your church, I want nothing to do with this. Like, absolutely nothing. I allowed myself to get super jaded because I was like, and I think God in his grace allowed me to go through that, man, because he helped me see that, like, I put people on a pedestal that only Jesus can occupy. Like, I was part of the crowd putting, like, the church organization, the person, the pastor, the thing, like, on the pedestal where only Jesus could occupy. And Jesus, like, had to take me through that the Lord had to take me through that to teach me, like, no, like, I belong there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the God of your life. Like, I'm sitting on the throne. Like, I'm in control. And so all that, it still sucked. So, like, I mean, I spent 6-7 months, like, I dropped off the worship team. I was very angry, very bitter, not a good person, like, just like really acting out of anger in a lot of ways, acting out of frustration. I think like and at the same time, like I was trying to chase down being like the lead singer of a rock band, playing drums in a metal band. Like that was all just an identity crisis.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like who I am was so wrapped up in what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of like what God had to just untangle and is still untangling in my life, like separating who I am and what I do. Yeah, it was tough. So I don't know. You probably have more questions about it. But.
No, we're kind of actually really right on pace, and so that was kind of like really good setup. And so you reach this point in your life where you just like you pulled away, you are okay, and so at that point, there's a lot of people who can resonate with that. Of just like I experienced something in church, or I've seen something in church from the people of Jesus who say they claim to follow him, and I've experienced nothing of this, and so now I'm just be like tapping out and I'm gone. So you walked through something similar, and so you grew up believing in Jesus, like following Jesus, and then you reach that point where you're just like, I really don't want nothing to do with it. And so now, when did that change to where Jesus actually became someone you wanted to follow again?
Yeah, well, it took a long time.
You can go 50,000-foot view.
Yeah,
or 10
I mean,
view.
you were a big part of that. So I think at the time you had left Grace and you were at Flatirons and going there pretty regularly and had always like, hey, you should come to church. And I'd be like, the bumper sticker church? Like, absolutely not. Like, you think that I'm about to set foot in there? No, not going to happen. It's probably worse. So like, I just had always had this like perspective of Flatirons of like, oh, that's big, mega church, super weird. Like, I don't know. And I was driving a friend home after like hanging out in Lafayette, or this friend lived in Lafayette rather, where the main campus of Flatirons is. And like, I've always had like a pretty healthy relationship with Holy Spirit, like two-way conversation vibe, which is something you just develop. It's just a relationship that you have to work on. But like Holy Spirit was like, hey, you should go in there. And I was like, no, absolutely not. Me being like, trying to be disobedient, trying to do everything I could to be disobedient. But like, sure enough, pull into a service, like didn't tell anybody I was coming. You were probably there, but like sat in the back, put my hood up because I didn't want to run
Did
into
you go in
anybody.
the balcony or
The
just?
balcony, like very upper
That's
balcony.
the very first place I
Yeah.
sat. I just sat in the top furthest corner of the,
Yeah.
just like, I'm just here to check it
I
out.
just didn't want to run into anybody because I know a
Yeah.
big church like that. I knew people that went there, and like I just didn't want to I didn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, went, and then Jim started preaching a message about how like the church had hurt his family, and like tied it in with like how church actually hurt Jesus. Like, and to say like Jesus came for the people that feel a little bit outcasts, that feel
Mm-hmm.
like they're lost and they're broken. And it was the first time I think I'd heard a message on like grace,
Yeah.
radical grace,
Yeah.
and who Jesus was. And so I'm like bawling up in the top back
Yeah.
corner because I'm just like, where has this been all my life? Like, this is like water to a thirsty soul. And started coming. So just went with you and David and a bunch of our friends, and we do Saturday night church and then hang out at Saturday night at the apartment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we won't go into that, but like we were growing up, bro. We were figuring it out. Like, but I probably spent 6 months just attending, which is the first time I've ever just attended church, like, and not served at it. I think like there's this, a lot of people serve at church out of obligation because they feel the Lord owes them something,
Mm-hmm.
or they owe the Lord, or they owe the Lord something. Like, man, God's grace is something you can never repay, so don't even try.
Yeah.
It's not worth striving for. I think most of my Christian life has been like, what can I do for God? And now the Lord has me in the spot where like, what can I actually do with Him?
Yeah.
Which, like, doing things for God is taxing. Doing things with God is freeing.
Yeah.
And like, so learning that like at Flatirons and just attending, and then, dude, I'm like, I love music. It's what I've been put on earth to do. And so I was like, man, well, the worship team at Flatirons is freaking dope. Like, they were
Mm-hmm.
playing I was like these are musicians that would actually
Yeah.
push me to be a better musician. I think for a long time, just because of like, I've invested in my gifting a lot and practiced a lot. Like, for a long time, like, I was the best musician at every church I was at, but now being at a church like to where I could actually,
You weren't the best one in the room.
I weren't the best one in the room. And that, like, to me, like, I'm competitive. So it was like actually like a really good thing because it forced me back into like practicing and actually working on my craft, which I just completely ditched.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, like, started going Flatirons, got involved in the worship team. That was crazy. Like, even that story of how that happened. So I auditioned. It was like American Idol style, center stage, drums, spotlight in that big old room. And there was like 5 people watching me, like way out in the audience. And so like, yeah, like, auditioned, passed it by all means. But like, I've always struggled to like, I've like, I want people to think highly of me.
Yeah.
And I used to like say anything, like, and make up stupid stories.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I know, like, stupid stories just to make myself look better. But that's kind of tying back to the adoption thing. Like, that was just identity issues of like not securing who I am. Like, I'm so freaking scared of how other people think of me. And so basically I dropped a comment. I was like, oh yeah, like, they were like, hey, what else are you doing like the rest of this week? Because they were trying to set up the next thing in that audition process. I'm like, oh, like, I'm playing with this DJ group and we're headlining Heaven Fest, which we were playing at Heaven Fest, yes, but like Switchfoot was actually headlining. But I said that specifically to make myself look better.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time like anybody in Grace had like, anybody with Grace had like called that out. So I went to this worship interview with like 8 worship leaders, and me, it was very intense. And basically the worship director at the time had just like, hey man, like, you said this after your audition, but it was not true. It looked like you were playing the after party. Like, why did you say that? Like, not judgment, just like, hey, why'd you say that?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, to be honest, I just came out and said it. Like, to be honest, like, I was really like, you guys are like a big platform and like amazing, intimidating, and I just wanted to say something that would make myself look like I could be on your level. He's like, okay, like, well, thanks for being honest. Like, ultimately, bro, like, you come in here, you'd probably be one of the better drummers like on our team, but like, I'm more concerned about you being healthy than you being talented.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, he had a couple of pastors on his staff. John Meaning was one of them. One of my best friends was in my wedding, and then
you play with him all.
Yeah, he's part of Red Rocks Worship. Another guy named Luke and another guy named Tommy Stout. Like, they met with me every other week for like 4 or 5 months, and just walked me back to health.
Yeah,
because I was all sorts of fractured in all sorts of different places. So like, they really like discipled me. Like, that was the first experience, other than like back to youth group, like in Phoenix, of like John pain, like actually like discipling me
Yeah.
and caring more about my soul rather than my talent. I think like a lot of worship teams just try to fill a slot on planning center, man, and they're
Yeah.
not like caring about like what their people are actually walking through and walking alongside of them. But
Yeah.
Jesus like walked with people. So all that to be said, like my first weekend playing at Flatirons was crazy because it was Christmas,
Yeah.
and their drummer that was scheduled like dropped out, and he said, "Hey, I was, you know, basically called into play," which is wild because I remember like getting off a stage the last service and then getting on a plane and flying to Barbados. But
Yeah.
yeah, so started serving there. Incredible worship team, incredible environment. The first like up leveling like my musical skills like was really cool. And at the time I was working in real estate, like helping build
Yeah.
a really big real estate team. And it was cool like getting to do both, but I'd always had this like itch to like, you know, working in ministry, working for a church, like doing worship, like music, something or another. It was like, man, that's what I want to do with my life. Like, don't really care about the paycheck. That's what I want to do
Mm.
with my life. And so that wasn't, you know, in order to try to discover what that might look like, I left my business job and then went into an unpaid internship for 11 months. So I went from
Yeah.
making good money to making no money,
Yeah.
and really put myself in a spot where like I was like having to depend on the Lord, like literally down to like I totaled my car 2 weeks before the internship. I had raised maybe 4 grand, but then God brought a new car and like $25,000
Oh, wow.
raised for the internship, like literally within that 2 weeks.
Wow.
But I was freaking out. I'm like, Lord, I don't have an income anymore. Like, what the heck? Like, you know, all
Yeah.
this stuff is happening to
Yeah.
me. Like, geez. So spent that year in the internship. Like, honestly, it wasn't even a worship intern. It was a young adults intern, which is cool because I got to spend time at the Denver campus. And that was ultimately like, you know, spend time with John meeting and another guy named Zach Hargraves, another guy named Cole Zander, who are like the literal band for Red Rocks worship, which is kind of cool
Yeah.
how God brings that all together.
Did you all intern at the same time? You and Zach
Zach,
did.
Cole, and I did. So we all lived
Yeah. Yeah.
together for
Yeah.
like a year or two. 8 guys in one house.
Yeah.
You think your house is messy and stinky?
Oh man,
No, it's even worse.
I remember
So
that.
yeah, so we like I spent that year like just kind of God. That's where he did like, you know, he was diagnosing my issues all up to this point, like for these couple of years, and then that's where he actually did surgery, like
Mm-hmm.
where he actually like removed the things. I feel like because I
Yeah.
spent 6 months like not playing on platform at all. I was just serving like on tech stuff for like the weekend and
Yeah.
helping John build the team at Denver campus, and then ended up playing like a lot of weekends at Denver because that's where I was. And like in that time frame, so I've always known I'm adopted, but I've always had a fear of like knowing the integral details of the story. Basically that year, like part of my journey was like actually sitting down with my parents and like hearing the every fine detail down to like the smallest one of my adoption story, and I was not prepared. Like
Yeah.
I wish somebody would have warned me because like you know I did like 4 months of intensive counseling after that because I was like, oh, shoot,
There's a lot there.
all of my identity issues are wrapped up in this thing. So
Yeah.
I actually have to go into that pain to discover like who I really am.
Yeah.
And so it was a painful journey, but it was well worth it.
Yeah.
Like
When you
yeah.
combine so you just said during this year of the internship. So during that year of the internship is the same year you figured out the adoption story.
Like
And
all of it. I was new. No, I was adopted, but like I
okay, but
didn't
this
know
is
the
all within the same
details.
time period.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you said during the internship, that's when like God started like stripping stuff away and
Mm-hmm.
teaching you things, and then you have your adoption story,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like 4 months of intensive counseling.
Yep.
Through that whole process, what was starting to change inside of you, or what was Jesus like first like
Yeah.
transforming within your life that
Yeah.
wasn't there before?
Well, I alluded to it earlier, but who I am was wrapped up in what I do. And
Mm-hmm.
like, man, like God was like, no, who you are is like my son.
Yeah.
I'm well pleased.
So
Like,
it's like really like you're right. Their
yeah,
identity was
it's like,
getting
no, I
reshipped.
literally plucked you out of a situation, like literally like took you physically and moved you to like into my plan for your life. What the devil meant for evil, like, cause if I would have if I would have been born into the environment that my like
That you were
birth
supposed to, yeah.
mom was all in, she was 18, addicted to drugs, birthed out, was incarcerated for selling drugs, literally. Like, I definitely wouldn't be sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where I'd be,
Yeah.
but like, that's a totally different life. And
Mm-hmm.
so, just like that realization of like, shoot, like, you really do care about me.
Yeah.
Like, you really do love me. Like, and like that kind of like heart of God, like going in a journey. I mean, I'm even still on this path, like just Jesus coming and dying on the cross for my sins, like took on a whole different meaning for
Yeah.
me in that time. And like that's what changed. Is
Yeah.
like now, like, you know, what you do in this life, really it does matter, but you can't do it fully without knowing like who you are. And those are two totally separate things. And so that was the surgery that like the Lord was like, no, all the things you thought you were, I'm going to cut away.
So that was a big year for
Drummer,
you.
music, sports, friendships, connection, all the things, like business, marketing, all the, like, no, that's not who I am.
So you said you took this all away.
Literally took it all away.
Yeah.
Like,
I just read in this is like super cool. So I just read in Joel. I think it's Joel 2:25.
I'm getting
And
deep portions of the Bible.
Right? Who reads the
Old
book of Joel?
Testament should read the book
But
of
it
Joel.
literally talked about how God said he was going to restore what the locusts like took away. And so in the sense of, you just say everything like for where you are now, through that year of everything you lost, it's like God is like restoring it to like a whole new level. But you had to go through that identity stripping.
Yep.
In the sense of God's like, he doesn't know that he's my kid. And you had to go through that. So I think I had a very similar situation with being adopted too, but that's for different conversation for, I guess we're focused on that story. But pick back up with the internship.
Yeah.
We're going to switch a little bit over to just the practical serving side.
Yeah.
So you went from playing all the time. You said you did young adults. So as you got into that aspect of doing ministry, what would you say surprised you the most when you started really getting into serving in ministry, now that you're kind of on the other side of identity, or through this year, or just pick it up there? Surprises, ministry.
Yeah, I think ministry, again, like this Christian life that we live, a lot of churches preach about what things you can do for God rather than doing them with God. And like, at the end of the day, ministry at a church is all about people, because that's what Jesus is about. And so the thing that surprised me the most, I think, was like the mental and physical and spiritual capacity it takes to actually just walk with people is a lot.
Yeah.
And you can't pour out from an empty cup.
Yeah.
You can't lead from an unhealthy spot. And so I think like the demands of like just being an unpaid intern, man, they work their interns to the bone there. And that's a good thing, is what you sign up for. Like a lot of interns on the other side of a church internship look at it like, the church did that to me. They worked me to the bone. I'm like, well, you said yes to it, so it's kind of your fault. It's like, if you didn't want to do it, just don't do it. Like, but
intern
ultimately,
anywhere.
ultimately, like, you said yes to it, so you should know what you're signing up for. But at the end of the day, like, that surprised me. Like, I'm still like, I love people. I'm an extrovert, but I've learned how to recharge on my own. And if you're in ministry, like, you got to find the things that like you can do to recharge by yourself. Like, and that's like a rhythm of like even how Jesus operated. If we read scripture, he would perform these miracles in front of thousands of people. And then the very next thing he would do would get away with his Father.
Yeah.
He just, nope, get away. No disciples, no nothing. Go on by myself.
Yeah.
Silence. Like, he took solitude. And like, I actually had to learn how to do that, because I can't sit still. Like, I'm a constant fidgeter. Being a drummer, like, I'm always moving. Like, and so just learning to like sit and breathe and like reconnect with like what's going on in your mind, like, allowed me to be more present where my feet are. I think like that was the biggest shock of like how much you actually have to do that in ministry. Still do it today, like, and my ways of doing it. But of like, golf is one of those things for me. I'm actually going to play golf after this. So
fantastic.
It's like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like me sitting down, breathing, still doing something, but it's outside. I have my phone off. Like, I'm not paying attention to anything else. So
really
yeah. So that was like the most shocking thing for sure.
And that's when you were doing young adults. So so then you got into doing just drumming at like worship band ministry at that point. So go from your journey from there, like after the young adults, getting into worship, drumming, from Flatirons over to Red Rocks, down to your current state. You can go to like when you just first arrived. Or all the way.
So didn't get hired. I had a position that was available for me, being like basically young adult worship director, essentially. And Flatirons decided to like cancel their entire young adults ministry. Don't ask me why, don't know, but they went the job. So, and in that, like, God brought an opportunity to like, this is actually where I hopped into real estate. Not before this. Before this, I was selling insurance for Northwestern Mutual. But like right afterwards, like reconnected with a guy by the name of Jordan Terrell, who was building a real estate team. real estate company here in Denver. He actually used to be the young adult pastor at Flatiron. It's kind of a wild story and wild connection that way. But it was either jump into like an unknown thing and build a business with him, or like be a regional sales manager for AT&T. And like I've always been excited about building things and like being a part of things that launch from like the ground up. And so I chose this, was the higher risk, but I'm single, don't have kids, nothing, like a lot. I don't got much to lose. So went and did this, hopped into like real estate, and always like would play drums at Flatirons on the weekend, was still, contracting down at Denver, either worship leading from the guitar and singing or playing drums. Like, so I became one of the main people around there, like helping out where it was needed. So would go to almost every single campus as needed. Started to do that. It was still like, being single. You go to young adults ministry, they kind of joke about it. I call it young and available, YA, right? The best place to look for a spouse is probably your local church, like, because it's probably someone who's at least remotely interested in Jesus.
It's better than meeting them at a bar.
Yeah, I mean, not to say that you can't meet your wife at a bar, because I mean, I have cousins that have like done the online dating thing and they're married, like, whatever. But like
I've always church, it's a big deal.
I've always wanted like community, and I still wanted community. And so I had been to a Red Rocks young adults at one point in my life, like some conference thing they were putting on, and Levi Lesko was speaking. So they had a bunch of Christine Kane, they had a bunch of speakers, and I had heard of Red Rocks worship, like just being connected in the music community. Like, oh yeah, I've heard of Red Rocks worship, like Corey Miller and Tyler and Breakthrough and whatever, like all these songs, and I'd heard them. I'm like, oh yeah, that's sick. So I ended up going to young adult. Started to go to young adults like every other week or so. They meet weekly on Thursdays at our Lakewood campus. But started to go, and had some mutual friends with like Corey and Tyler and the worship team, and met Corey. Ended up hanging out like kind of outside of church, just at a function.
Yeah.
And then Corey was like, dude, like, I'm always looking for people to like play drums at YA. Like, would you ever want to come down? And so, I started serving down there once a month, playing drums, but I was still doing like the Flatirons thing on the weekend and kind of dancing back and forth. And then suddenly came 2020, COVID. So it changed everybody's world. Yeah, COVID happened. Church shut down as we know it, which I think was a cool reset for the church. I really do actually think it was ended up being like a really good thing, because you get into this like mindset of like going to church out of obligation, and then when that's taken away, it's like, okay, where do I connect with Jesus? Like, I think people are like finally learning like you can connect with Jesus outside of a church building, right? Yeah. In fact, that's where you should be doing the majority of your connecting. But all that being said, like Corey called me like the week the world shut down, which is crazy because like that week John Meeting was getting married. I was in his wedding. Got the cops called on us because they thought it was like a prom thing. It was hilarious. That week, Red Rocks had to record a bunch of online services because they didn't know when they were going to meet again. And none of their drummers were available because it was like on a Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was on a Thursday. Corey called me and was like, hey man, any shot you can come down and play for this thing? We have to like record like 8 or 9 church services because we just don't know when our doors are going to open back up or when we're going to be able to do this. So I came down, met the rest of the Red Rocks worship team at that iteration of it. And bro, it just clicked. It just worked. Like I was already like getting pretty close with Corey, and like he loved like having me on as a drummer because he was a young adult worship pastor at the time. And so like he knew it was going to work. Like I know he was like bringing people into the fold. And at that time, like, John was coming down to play once a month ish, Cole, Zach. So we all kind of started playing at Red Rocks, and then world shuts down. Had to record all these church services. And that time of church was weird because like sometimes Flatirons would need me, sometimes Red Rocks would need me. Also trying to figure out a real estate business when no one can go see a house in person. It's crazy, like having to figure all that out. But like I ended up serving more at Red Rocks because they had more of a need, because all their drummers like were weekend people and they had jobs. They can't do that in the middle of the week. So yeah, just ended up doing that. And then later on in 2020, I guess I'm going to keep going.
Keep.
But later on in 2020, Red Rocks Worship was gearing up to record an album called Things of Heaven, which if you go back and watch all the videos, it's super weird because everyone has a mask on in the room because that's what we had to do to get like 300 people in a room. It's so weird. I don't really like watching it. The songs are dope, but I don't really like watching it just for that because it's so creepy.
We were so used to seeing what people.
Yeah, it's just like, bro, the mask culture was crazy.
Now, we had to like check. Like, why is everyone wearing a mask?
We had to check. Like the state was holding us to this. I'm sure Flatirons had to do something similar, like where they were you had to check people's temperature at the door, and if you were over a certain temperature, you got sent home. Like, it's a whole thing. It was so weird. Just weird. The pandemic, conspiracy theory. But yeah, we started doing these things basically before that album recording. We started doing these things called, just the weekly service recordings, like recording online church.
Yeah.
So singing, playing for a camera, and there's like maybe 50 people in the room that are our staff. And, our band, as you know it now, was the band for those recordings.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just like developed an affinity with like the rest of the Red Rocks worship team, like the worship leaders. And then it comes time to record this record, and like, well, these guys have been playing with us for like a year or more. Like, this just makes sense for them to play on this. And so we got asked to play on the record. And then shortly after that, so Things of Heaven, for those listening, is like the one with Echo Holy, Living God, a couple of our other bigger songs, I guess, are on that record. Shortly after that, Tyler, the worship director, sat me down. He was like, hey man, like, we really want you to be like the guy. We want you to be the drummer for Red Rocks worship. We want you to help pastor our worship drummers. We want you to really help us build this team on a contract basis. And so I didn't feel comfortable saying yes to that right off the bat, because I was still serving a couple weekends a month at Flatirons. But that was the point where I was like, all right, Lord, like, this is an open door that you have like opened. Like, this is something that I've wanted for a long time.
Yeah.
Because Red Rocks it's pretty big. Red Rocks worship we're signed to a label. Like, we make records, we get radio play, we do festivals, conferences, go on tour sometimes. Like, it's a pretty big deal. It's something that's been built and God's still breathing on it. And so being a part of that is something I've wanted for like something like that. It's something I wanted for a long time. And so, my then wife, we should probably talk about that too, how that went down.
When did you get married?
Got married in Rebecca. I met Rebecca at Student Escape 2021.
Okay, and this is before you started drumming?
I was kind of sort of serving at Red Rocks at this time.
Okay, so backtrack to how you met and that you're married, and fast track to today. Yeah,
that's a really good story. So actually, my wife, Rebecca, grew up with your wife, Kelly.
Yeah.
Wild, like Kelly's aunt lives on the same street Rebecca's aunt lives on the same street as Kelly's parents.
That she grew up on, yeah.
Yeah, which is wild. Yeah. Like, just kind of how and they went to the same church. So we were at Student Escape. I was going up for one of the last songs during a session, and like, they put the drums on these things called drum risers, which are like basically put together like steel frame platforms.
Yeah.
And there's like there's like a smoke machine or something like right by the drum platform, and it had caused like a bunch of condensation to like build up on the top of the drum platform. So I went and put my foot up to get up on this thing, and slipped and fell and hit my leg and put a hole down to the bone. Who should come running up with gauze but Rebecca? She was one of the camp nurses, the other being your wife, at this Student Escape. And that was kind of our first interaction, which is wild. Which I had noticed her before, because I was like, because Kelly was talking to her like they knew each other, and I was like, I even asked you at one point, like, who is that? Like, they're like, oh yeah, they like grew up together, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
Hit my leg on the drum platform. The whole room was laughing because I thought it was hilarious. What was not funny is the fact that I was bleeding profusely from my leg. Like, I was more mad about. Remember, I was pissed about my shoes.
Yes.
You came back like, dude, are you okay? And I'm like, dude, go clean my shoes.
That was the year I was.
You were student leader.
I don't know if it's legal, but I had like 20 students to like meet.
That's not legal.
It was the 1 year anniversary. It's the 1 year anniversary weekend of me being married.
Yeah.
And I spent the first year anniversary of being married. And I have this photo. Let me see if I can get it in this episode. I'm literally laying on the side of a mountain, flat.
Oh, I think I remember
nothing
that.
except for like the mountain face and the rock.
Yeah.
I have a blanket that doesn't even go down to my feet, and you just see my feet like sticking out. I take a picture and send it to another guy who came up with me. So it wasn't just me to the 20, it was another guy. And he's just like, that was like the best picture that he's ever seen. It's just like laying there. And he's just like, he didn't come to the mountain. He's like, I stayed back. He stayed back in the cabin.
Yeah.
But a lot of memories on that trip.
Yeah, dude. A lot of kids, so many pills. Gosh, like the amount of like drugs those kids were on just for like their ADD and whatnot. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, that's the whole reason Kelly and Rebecca were down there, was to like act as the pharmacy. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that was the biggest job.
And it was liability. They had to have actual medical professionals on site. But anyways, I put a hole in my leg, go back to the nurse's station. Rebecca's like cleaning the wound and all the things. I'm like, she's like, hey, this is really bad. You're going to need to go get stitches. And mind you, we are 45 minutes to an hour from any sort of civilization.
Yeah.
I think the nearest hospital is in Santa Fe, which is like 45 minutes away. And it's like 8 o'clock at night. We have another session to play. And I was like, no, just wrap it up. I got to go play drums. Like at this time, like Zach Hargraves is like literally playing drums for the last song because I had to go back and get this thing taken care of. So luckily it was my left foot, which is where you put like that foot goes on the hi-hat. It's not the kick pedal. So you don't use that foot as much, luckily, but wrapped it up, went back out, played another service. Horrible pain, worst pain I've ever been in my life. Like came back, like Rebecca's changing out bandages again. She's like, you really need to go to the hospital. And me, I'm a bit of a stubborn guy. And I was like, no, like we're an hour away, like just wrap it up again. We'll just have to, I'll be fine. She's like, no, you won't. And if I have to have Steven throw your butt in the back of my truck, I'll drive you there myself. So like the fact that she can like cut through the BS and like just be like, you're an idiot. Like we as husbands, we kind of need that. We need our wives to go like, what are you doing?
I can get along with you. Just
right. So 2 weeks after, she had like Facebook messaged me and like, hey, how's your leg doing? Just being a good nurse, following up, yada, yada. And I was like, hey, I don't use Facebook Messenger. Here's my number. And then we started texting. Then we started hanging out. And then we went on like our first, I guess, official date to a brewery in Brimfield called Four Noses. And like, and you probably remember this from your like kind of first outing with Kelly, like, when the date is scheduled for like 2 hours, but then like 6 hours later, you're still there.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. We just swapped stories and like put everything on the table. She wasn't scared of my baggage. I wasn't scared of hers. And so we're like, okay, like maybe there's something here. I slow played that because I'd just gotten out of like a sort of relationship that I was chasing that just ended bad. But yeah, like I remember we went to this concert she got tickets for, the 1975, and they had this song called It's Not Living If It's Not With You, and the Lord kind of used that to smack me upside the head. He was like, hey,
pay attention.
You should probably just ask her to be your girlfriend, idiot. Like, God has to speak to people who are the dumbest. I'm firmly believe that. Like he spoke to Moses through a burning bush. That's what he had to do to get his attention. So like the Lord's had to do that with me a couple different times. So anyways, we started dating like officially after that, dated for a year, got engaged, and then got married. And she's like the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah. You got married after you put out the album with
Red Rocks.
Yeah. Because you sang one of the songs at your wedding.
So we actually we had a pseudo COVID wedding. Shout out to the then Denver campus of Flatirons. Campus pastor Stefan. He was like, I just don't care what you do at your wedding, just don't tell me. We had like 250 people there. Definitely wasn't allowed.
It was definitely, I felt like COVID didn't exist.
No.
And like for the first time, because this is 2022.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow,
that was the vibe.
But we still had like 2 more years.
Yeah, that was the vibe.
Until it
was crazy. I think at that point I just stopped wearing a mask going to the grocery store. It's like, screw this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It all out after that.
So anyways, fast forward now, like Tyler asked me to be the guy.
When did you get a job with Red Rocks?
That was 2 years later. So fast forwarding 2 years, I just had this very much holy discontent with what I was doing. Discontent might be a bad word. Like I was just completely misaligned. Everything felt out of alignment in my life. At that point, I'm working in real estate, and not a knock to the company at all, because Jordan's a great leader, and what we built was really, really special. It was one of the #1 real estate teams in the country. Like I was making really good money, but I just felt this like, man, I have this thing with Red Rocks that is a thing. I was doing more stuff, like going out on the road and recording more records, and I'm like, man, like this is what I actually want to do, because this feels like breathing. This feels like toiling.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of came to that point. There were some interorganizational things in real estate, the real estate company, that just kind of were falling apart. And honestly, Jordan was going through a lot personally, but that's his story to tell. And so I just started dreaming with Tyler. I was like, hey man, I approached him. I was like, hey man, like, would there be any sort of conversation for me to like have more of a role here that looks more than just like contract? I don't know what that looks like. So we created a role. It was like marketing and communications lead for Red Rocks Worship. It was part-time at first. And the reason they offered me a full-time position, but I said no, because took one look at that salary and was like,
not right now.
This is a 50% pay cut.
Yeah.
How are we going to do this? And just didn't make sense. So I went part-time and still was in real estate full-time. That wasn't working, because now my attention is in 2 different places. And I clearly want to be over here. So it was just hard to do both. So did kind of restructure my role for real estate to accommodate for this. And then 6 months into it, man, the Lord was just like, hey, again, bozo, idiot. Like, I gave you this because you asked for it and you put one foot through the door. Are you going to walk through this or not?
Yeah.
And we just took the leap, like talked with Rebecca. I was like, hey, I will make it work. I'm very entrepreneurial. Like, I can make this work to where we can pay our bills, have savings, like start a family one day, the whole 9 yards. Like, I just believe like this is where the Lord wants me. Like, this is time. And it really like had heard clearly from the Lord through like a lot of different people in my life. One of them being my grandma, who actually passed away like shortly kind of before all this started unfolding. But I was recording Not the Things of Heaven, another record called Ascend, which has like Good Plans and a bunch of those songs on it. And kind of had like an out of body experience while recording that. It felt like I was like watching myself play drums. It was super weird. But like the when I was 18, kind of back to like the identity crisis of like wanting to be a rock star and do it for myself and whatever. Like, I was offered the chance to go on tour with this band called Random Hero and be like their touring drummer, but I had to quit school to do it. And so I was going back and forth with my parents and no, you shouldn't do that. It's not the right time. And then just arguing bitter arguments back and forth because this is what I wanted. I was hanging on so tight to it. And my grandma, like, she was in town. She sat me down. I was like, hey, I very clearly asked the Lord for this because you do have a gift for this. Like, this makes a lot of sense. It's not your time yet. And thank God she said that because that band's no longer a thing. Man, I just frankly wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
Like, I remember vividly, like, just getting this picture of like her and in the throne room of heaven and like kind of turning around during one of the songs we were playing and being like, it's time. Like, and so that's where like that started like a whole year before I even came on staff. Was just like, okay, like this is not an accident. This is the thing like that you want me to do with my life. And but anyway, step through it with one foot, and the Lord was like, I gave you this, like go. I'll bless you. And I think like we obsess so much as Christians about like what is our purpose for our life and our plan and yada yada. And the Lord's just like, yo, slow down, do it with me. I got you. Like, and I think like that's what I've learned over the last couple of years, man. It's just like, dude, whatever you want to do with your life, the Lord will bless if you do it with him. I don't think he needs us to do another thing for him, but he just wants to do things he wants to have a relationship with us. He wants us to have a relationship with him. And so jumped in full time as a director of marketing communications for Red Rocks Worship. And now it's morphed into like, I'm like one of pretty much the faces of the thing. So,
so you didn't get hired as just the drummer.
No,
you have
I have
a bigger job.
Yeah.
And drumming is just
my 9 to 5 is like helping the thing actually grow. Now my job looks more like actually just pastoring people, which is something that I love doing. That's like what my heart beats for. Like the drumming and like the things that I do are like, that is the gateway, like actually connecting with people and just walking with them. So I lead a team of 3 creatives, a graphic designer by the name of Miles, a long form videographer, his name's Aiden, and a content guy, his name's Noah. And we are the creative team for Red Rocks Worship. And that's my job now. So, and then I get to play drums and do all the things. So.
It's definitely a bonus.
It is a bonus. It keeps music being like the really cool thing and music still doesn't feel like it's getting old for me.
Yeah.
Because I have so much that's attached to it, like on the other side of things that is like, no, that's the work. Music feels like it's a joy still. So
that's good though.
Yeah.
Well, so now we're current state.
Mm-hmm.
And so now this is kind of where we're going to get into the question I kind of start off with here, or hinted at a little bit. When you look back, because you've been through several different churches, you've been through church hurt, identity, and then even after coming back to it, young adults, more drumming, more worship, like everything. When you look back, I guarantee you saw people who stayed, you saw people who left, you saw people do everything in between. What would you say separates the people who stay faithful to ministry and those who like quietly like drift away? Yeah. Well, first of all, I think like our manager Brewster says this a lot. 80% of the people you come in contact with will probably be called through a place. Very few people are called to it. So I think there's a difference between called through and called to. No one is better than the other. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, like for instance, like I think of like a transition that happened on our team a couple of years ago. Jess Parsons, she sings a song called Living God. Phenomenal worship leader. One of my favorite voices. They started having kids. Life changed. And she felt like she couldn't sustain what was being asked of her to be involved in Red Rocks Worship and be a stay-at-home mom. And she chose to be a parent to her kids. That's not saying that you can't do both.
she just made a decision that she couldn't do both. So I want to be super clear that like the people that drift away, where do they go? Sometimes it's actually because God's calling them through to another season of life. However, there are the people that drift away and you're like, they fell off the face of the earth, because Jess is still leading worship in a local church and doing her thing. But like,
I would say there's definitely the two types of
yeah,
people. And I was maybe explain a little bit of both. Like the people, like you can explain a little bit more on like someone like Jess.
Yeah.
Or just like they're still in ministry. It just kind of changed. But then there's people that you see of just like one of your things that you learned is just like handling the burnout and the stress because it requires so much. And some of those people just
they burn out.
Talk about both.
So let me start with the folks that I've seen like burn out. I think the folks that burn out, there's two symptoms I see. They are so obsessed in doing things for God and building God's kingdom that they forget to do things with him.
Yeah.
Like I've said that a couple different times. Like that's just a big lesson I've learned. Doing things with God, he'll tell you, hey, it's time to take a break. It's time to come retreat with me. Hey, time to come get filled up again. Secondly, they become wildly obsessed with building their thing and they worship it like an idol. And one of our favorite preachers, Scott Nichols, says when a good thing becomes an ultimate thing, ultimately that thing becomes a destructive thing.
Yeah.
So Red Rocks worship and what I do is not an idol for me. I can say that if God took it away tomorrow, I'd be like, okay, like it would suck. I'd be sad about it, but like I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't define who I am. Some people worship that platform. And one of my favorite worship leaders, Brooke Ledgerwood, talks about, and the glory of God is not something that it was meant for our human body. Like it's kind of where we see it like in the Old Testament when the Israelites were bringing the ark back to Jerusalem and God gave clear instructions for how that thing was supposed to be carried and they didn't obey. And somebody reached out in good intention, trying to save the ark from falling, struck dead.
Yes.
Right. The glory of the Lord is not meant for the human body. That glory is purely for the Lord. And I think when we try to reach out and create the golden calves that we do, and it's really easy to do in worship because you're especially worship on a platform like Red Rocks, like, bro, we had to keep ourselves in check like all the times. And I think there's 3 things that really help us do that when we're on platforms like going on tour and big stages like Red Rocks Amphitheater. Number 1, just remembering who this is for. Number 2 is like actually connecting with people. Like we do this thing, I get to head it up on the road. It's called the Worship Leader Hang. We like connect with local church worship pastors, teams, and just ask them one simple question. God, what is God doing in your church? And then just looking for the moments of like in that, looking for the moments of where God's moving and just get in stream with that. Like we're less concerned at Red Rocks Worship of building our thing. We're more wanting to actually partner with what Holy Spirit and the Lord is doing. But I think people who like burn out, they're toiling to build their own Tower of Babel, bro.
Yeah.
Like and I feel for those people. I'm like, ultimately it will destroy them.
Yeah.
They will get exactly what they want, which is the fame and the glory, and it will literally destroy them. That's why we've seen it like moral failures and pastors and churches and artists and all those things. Like, we're like, where did they go? It's like, that's so unfortunate as they were holding on so tight to this thing that they were building. And man, that sucks. But then there's the people on the other side, like, Jess, or even like Corey Miller, one of my best friends on planet Earth. He's chasing down his own thing now. He's not a part of Red Rocks Worship anymore. We love him. We still write with him, still do a lot of stuff with him, but God has like positioned him to run after something that the Lord's really just put on his heart, and he feels like it's the time to do. Like he left in a very healthy way. Like that was a 3-year conversation. It wasn't quick. It was very much, done from the blessing and favor of like leadership and like people walking through that with him. And like, he's going out of the house, so to speak, blessed. It's like when you're, as a dad, like when your kids leave your house, when your kids leave the house, you probably want them to leave in a way where they feel like they have your blessing to do that, or they feel like you're still like behind them. You're still like their biggest fan. Be the worst thing in the world to like leave a house, as a kid, not on good terms with your folks, like that just sucks. And you spend a lot of time doing this on planet Earth. So I think there's like those 2 camps of people. And I guess like the people that stay faithful in it, like even, backtracking a little bit, like Corey is still definitely being faithful to like call God in his life. It just looks a little different. I think the people that stay faithful, they don't do things for God, they do it with him. And then they're not concerned or obsessed about building their own thing. They're obsessed with the glory of the Lord and pointing people to Jesus, like really doing that. And I think you can do that from a healthy place, but your team, the people you do it with, have to be fully aligned in that. And when the times where you will mess up, because it does happen, like you keep each other accountable. So like on the road, man, like if someone's having a bad day on tour in the Red Rocks crew, like there will usually be somebody. God's put me in that position a lot of different times to just go take that, like a little, like, hey, we're gonna go Uber and get off site somewhere. How are you? I see like you're kind of like keeping to yourself. Like I see like you're not as engaged on some of our last 2 worship nights. Touring is hard.
Yeah.
Like it's not easy, but like just we have that type of crew that will like keep each other accountable and make safe spaces for each other. So I think like it works because of that. We're less concerned about building our own thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that sounds really healthy and really
it's
practical.
not without its like flaws, and that's the thing, man.
Well, everything has never
like go back to the church hurt thing, bro. Like if you get food poisoning tomorrow, I heard a speaker say this once and it kind of clicked for me. If you get food poisoning tomorrow, right, you're probably not going to eat that food again, but you're going to eat again. Like you need to eat again. Like you'll starve yourself. So like people treat church hurt like food poisoning, and they never eat again.
Yeah,
it's like, well, that's dumb. You have to eat again. Like, but maybe just don't eat that food.
Yeah.
Right? So don't go back to the same church that keeps like hurting you. Look for people who like love the Lord and love people. It's very simple. Like when Jesus said in his in the word is like, this greatest command I give you, love your neighbor as yourself. Like he's telling us, go therefore and make disciples of all nations. Love your neighbor as yourself. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like to follow Jesus. It's just not easy.
Yeah.
Because of all the other things we try to bolt onto it. So
yeah, it turns in so much into like a religion thing. It's so easy. I really love that analogy.
Religion sucks, bro.
Yeah. I'm gonna wind this down a little bit, but before we do, don't worry, a little bit more.
Okay. Nah, I'm good, bro.
When I interview guests, every story has transformation. Every story has a moment that changed. And so if you finished this sentence, before I used to believe fill in the blank, today I believe this.
Oh, it's easy.
How would you answer that question?
Yeah, before I used to believe that the Christian life was all about doing things for God. Now I believe that the Christian life is all about doing things with the Lord.
Yeah.
Easy.
And that's just a lesson. I feel like I've learned it, and so many people, I feel like as soon as you learn that lesson, I think you just find a lot more freedom in life, because like
that's what freedom feels like.
Yeah, because I talked about this on one of my recent episodes, where you live in this mindset so long of just like, I need to do this for God, and then you just forget that, like just walk with him and do it, and then you just read all the Bible stories and you realize that's like the story everybody goes through. So that's perfect. Rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So this means you can't talk for more than 1 minute.
Oh, geez.
Just try to keep it in your head. I have a clock over there.
Okay.
One habit every follower of Jesus should practice.
Silence, solitude.
And why?
Because when you turn down the noise, the Lord can actually speak to you.
I love it.
And the Lord in his grace will not force himself on you.
Yeah.
He'll wait till you get quiet to then speak to you. And I think like this is something I try to practice like once a week. I don't have my phone, it's turned off, and I do something. It's probably outside.
Yeah.
We live in a
kind
really
of like you talked about golf earlier.
Yeah. It's one of the things.
What is one misconception that Christians have about ministry?
That God needs us to build his kingdom. He doesn't. He can do that on his own. We get to build it with him.
Yeah.
Easy.
Don't do it apart from him. What is one book besides the Bible that has shaped your life?
Geez, the ruthless elimination of hurry.
My guy, JMC.
John Mark Comer. Yeah. He just kind of gets the rhythms of how really all he does, bro, is just dig into how Jesus lived his life and like try to implement some of those practices into his own. I'll give you a bonus one. There's another one. It's an older book. It's called Practicing the Presence of God. It's by Brother Lawrence.
Brother Lawrence. I need to read this one. This is on my list.
It is. I think, sorry, this might be longer than a minute, but like.
No, you're good. Go for this.
When you read the book of Job and how Job was like God's servant and then like got everything taken away from him and went through horrible times in life, like he got angry with the Lord. And like Brother Lawrence talks about in this one section of the book of like, God wants the raw and real emotion from you. I think we like put God on this pedestal of like, oh, he's God. I can't get angry at him. I can't like, no, bro, like he wants all of that. Like, cause it's like, you know, if James, for instance, comes to you and he's frustrated about something, you want him to be able to like talk about that openly. He's not going to pitter patter meander around the thing. Like, you want him to like be honest with you, and that's like God knows our intentions and our hearts ultimately, but he just wants that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what a relationship looks like, friction sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That book is on my list.
yeah,
I
it's
just finished
so
up
good.
Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I'm trying to read like at least one book a month, and I'm like, I need my
That's
next
a
book.
tall task.
So I don't know. I read some hard ones.
Here's a non-spiritual book. So I'm a bookie. The Lord of the
Good.
Rings. Like the Lord of the Rings, there's so many like gospel parallels in that book. J.R.R. Tolkien's the goat. Yeah.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
watched the podcast with Sam, because I think Sam does
Uh-huh.
he does a Lord of the Rings podcast,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't realize his hat was a hat about the Shire, and then his background was like a Tolkien background.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't realize it till afterwards. But
I want to see the Shire is a real place in New Zealand. I want to see it before I die one day.
Well, you should go.
Nice.
I know what you'll probably say,
Okay.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there are people who are listening who are tired. They're maybe disappointed with church, all the things that we talked about. Maybe they're discouraged. Maybe they're wondering if it's worth even continuing to follow Jesus. What is one thing, if I gave you this piece of paper and this pencil right now, that you would write down and I would stick it up on this wall for every guest that came in that read it?
Question.
What's one thing that you would leave with them? You can take a second if you need to.
Yeah. Ask the question one more time.
For the people that are disappointed with church, discouraged, perhaps they're tired, wondering if it's even worth continuing to follow Jesus.
Man, I would just encourage them and be like, hey, you've probably made church and the things that you're doing the God of your life, and you've forgotten like your first love, which is the Lord.
Yeah.
And maybe it's wise to take a season of like pulling back from everything you're doing and just get real quiet and learn to do life with the Lord. The Lord doesn't need you to do anything for him. So that's what I'd say.
Love it. Maybe I'll print that out, frame it, and then just start like a wall of
that'd be cool.
one-liners. Yeah. So anyway, dude, thanks for sitting down and having this conversation. Appreciate the honesty, the laughs,
there's so many inside jokes we didn't get into. We could have, but
well, I'll have you on for like the inside joke episode.
Okay, deal. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.